Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast, a show chocked full of strategies for scaling your speaking business. Now, here's your host, coach to the industry's superstars, Jane Atkinson.
Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. There's nothing I love more than introducing our audience, you guys, to a superstar, someone that you may not know. Now, I need to put a caveat on that because Jule Kim is known to many. She has over 30,000 followers across platforms, and we're going to talk about how that happened and a whole wide range of topics, including imposter syndrome. Welcome to the show, Jule.
Oh, thank you so much, Jane. It's so great to be here. I'm excited.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you because you have been like a layered onion that we just keep peeling back, and there's more, and there's more, and there's more. Now, I said I love introducing people to people that they don't know, but you've got 22,000 followers on Instagram alone. So people do know you. Tell everybody what your current business model is. Where's your bread and butter, and what are all the things that you're doing?
Well, that's a really great question. So my main bread and butter is executive coaching, so one-on-one with women who lead, and it generally tends to be people of color, so immigrants, especially Asians, Indians, the Middle East. That's where pretty much all my clients are. So
Interesting.
very global. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So interesting. And I know it wasn't a straight path to executive coach, and I know that you're actually moving into speaking and branching out. And when you're ready, we're going to be talking about that again. Um, Talk a little bit about your background in terms of you started in tech. You had some pretty impressive jobs, two of at least that I know of. Tell everybody where you have worked and what you were doing.
Well, it is kind of a crazy path. I know that we've seen those memes where in our minds, especially for younger, we think the path is just a straight linear line going up.
Yeah,
And it's more like a crazy line of squiggles all over the page, sometimes going off the page and then coming back. So
exactly.
before I had this coaching business, I was a photographer. Before I had any business, I was working at Amazon. I was a product manager. I actually came in as a technical writer
Okay.
in in the very beginning. Yeah. So even within Amazon itself, I switched roles.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's apparently quite unusual. You don't usually see a jump from writing to product management. And
Probably
before that, I was a content manager at a startup called Avo, and also a content editor at Microsoft. So I've kind of been all around the block in the content world, content marketing, SEO.
not. Oh, okay. Incredible. Now, while you're doing some of these jobs, you're kind of trying to figure out what's going on in your life and in your world. And you've given me permission to kind of go anywhere on this podcast. So thank you for that. You had a couple of diagnoses that probably were alarming and illuminating at the same time. Can you talk about those? Because I know there are people who might be struggling with these things themselves.
So the most recent diagnosis I got was for ADHD,
Okay.
and there was an unofficial diagnosis of autism as well.
Okay.
So, with both over the last 5 years, especially with becoming more active on social media for my own content, of course, that means you're going to consume more content yourself on social. And so, what was I seeing coming across all of my feed was you might be ADHD if you do this, right? If you
Right.
load up the laundry and then forget to ever come back to it, or you might be autistic if this. And I was like, no, that's not me. And then a couple of years go by, I'm like, maybe that is me. So then I finally go see a psychiatrist last year, and he's like, yeah, you're you're pretty, it's pretty guaranteed.
Okay.
So yeah.
So, how does that challenge you when it comes to work? And, did it affect your life back when you were in tech? Did it affect your life as a photographer? Did it affect your life today as a content creator and influencer? What does that actually look like on a day to day?
Oh my gosh, on a day to day. So let's say in any given day, no matter who you are, We generally have some form of family or close friends, some human that we have a connection with. And
Mhm.
then there's generally going to be some level of work we're doing, or at least some interest that we're pursuing. So, on a day to day level, even as a child, my family was always coming down on me hard because they would say, do your chores, and I might do half of the first one. And then
Right,
I would just kind of wander off and do something else.
right.
But in Asian culture, autism and ADHD is not really a thing. And they don't really have the concept of high functioning autism. Like,
Yes,
so because I excelled in school, because
right.
I'm lucky that my autism and my singular focus tends to align very well with academic excellence. I had no problems with testing well. Now, if you said, but did you do your homework? I was like, no. So I like the learning, but I wouldn't do the work.
So obviously you had a lot of just natural intelligence and you didn't have to work super hard to get good grades and do well in academics.
You know, the natural intelligence thing, I sometimes have a problem with because I think it's more cultural conditioning. So,
Oh,
for example, I knew how to read and write before I started kindergarten because my parents had trained me to do so. And I could also do my multiplication tables before I started kindergarten. That is not normal.
okay. So it might be not nature, but nurture might be the reason why you were such a high achiever from such a young age. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. But, you know, all throughout school, I'm lucky that I always tested well. But when it came to studying to actually get the information into my brain, it was a no-go. It was always a struggle. So when you ask me about the day to day, it has always been like pushing massive resistance and almost even literally sweating bullets sometimes, like sitting down, it's pedal to the metal, it's 11 o'clock at night, and I have to be at school at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I
Mm.
still haven't written this paper. And I'm like, oh my God. And this is the story of my life over and over and over, this constant procrastination. Now, in content, in my business, it's kind of the same things. And I have to keep reminding myself, you will hate yourself if you keep doing this. You will get to that last minute and you will just be so mad at yourself. And I don't want to let people down, least of all my family or my clients.
Mm.
It's easier to let myself down. I don't know. That's just a sad truth,
Yeah.
especially as a woman.
Yeah. And you talk a lot about imposter syndrome, and I do definitely want to go there. Let's talk about being on the spectrum. I learned so much from a TV show called Atypical. I think it's on Netflix, but don't quote me on that. And it was just about a family who had a son who was a young teen and then a teenager. Um, and I just learned so much. Like it actually has me quite fascinated because spectrum really does mean spectrum. Like there are so many people who function completely different from somebody else with the same thing. Um, I think it's interesting that you being female and being on the spectrum, I think it's more, is it more inclined to be boys who get diagnosed?
So boys will get diagnosed earlier on.
Ah,
It, for some reason, you know, the medical community tends to gravitate towards a stereotype of what ADHD looks like.
okay.
And historically, it's been painted the picture of the overactive, bouncing kid who can't stay still. So
Hmm.
then this automatically would rule out all girls because girls receive such heavy social conditioning to be nice, to be very demure, and to conform.
Hmm. Yeah. And when it comes, how much crossover is there for ADHD and autism? Is
How much crossover in what way?
well, I'm just wondering if like for you it's a blend, and I'm wondering if that's very common. Do you think that there are a lot of people who have both? I don't know.
I think from the last point that I looked it up a couple of years back,
Uh-huh.
the coincidence rates were at least around 20% where
Oh.
people would have both. But the issue is that in the psychological community, the way that the diagnoses were structured made it such that you could only be diagnosed with one or the other.
Okay, that makes no sense. Okay, well. I appreciate you talking about it because you've been so open with different things that have gone on in your life with your audience. And let's just talk about your audience and how you actually grew an Instagram following to 22,000. I checked out some of your videos, and I'll talk about the specific ones that drew a lot of attention. But where did you begin, and where do you think you see some flashpoints in your growth? What went viral for you?
This might sound a little bit weird, but I would say my journey began before Instagram. It began on Clubhouse. So I don't know if you were ever on the app, were
I
you?
was on Clubhouse for not a super long period of time, but I totally get that.
Yeah. So for myself being a super hard introvert, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Well, I'm actually an introvert with extrovert tendencies.
Okay, so maybe you're in that ambivert middle area,
Maybe. Is that the word for
depending.
it? I didn't even know the word ambivert.
Yeah.
That's me. Yes.
Yeah.
I could go either way. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you, like me, there's a reason why we're attracted to the idea of speaking. We want to share a message with the world in some way, and there is a reason for that. I
Yes.
didn't know I had that within myself. I used to be a blogger in 2004, but
Okay.
then, that went away. I blogged for about a year. I was actually pretty prolific. I think I published 170 posts in that year.
Wow.
And but then I dropped out of law school because that's when the blog was. And I entered corporate, and then my life was consumed with corporate. So it just all died down, and all of my content production was in service of work. It wasn't a personal thing anymore.
Okay.
So when Clubhouse rolled around because of COVID, I get on this app. I don't know what I am expecting. I don't know what I'm seeing. I get on there, and then suddenly it's like I turn into a different person. I'm
Oh,
on there like a crazy person, like spending 60 hours a week on Clubhouse and always just waiting for my chance to share something. And I was like, my God, when I look back over that time, it's because I had that, I guess, unacknowledged need to share a message. So then it moves from that to Instagram. And I'm like, this is so painful, but I'm going to do this 100 days of content. I'm going to
oh,
try 100 straight days of content. And I did it. Video wasn't in the picture back then. So what was really big were single image posts and carousels. So I produced and I stuck to it. I don't know how. It probably helped that my business wasn't at the point it's at now. So I had
okay.
a lot more free time back then. So I did it and I started growing. Now, the other thing that I think people don't think about is when you're growing your accounts, to collab with a larger influencer is immensely helpful. So I had a friend, he featured several of my posts and I got huge boosts. But the other half of my followers that came were actually when I started doing Reels. So Reels entered the picture for Instagram,
Yes.
and I wasn't speaking videos at all. I was just doing trends, but I was morphing the trends to fit my niche, the things I was teaching. And then one of them went semi-viral. I think it hit 800,000 views.
Which one was that?
It's, I don't think I have it pinned to my profile
Actually,
anymore.
hang on though. I have one that hit not, well, oh, wait. 800,000 views. Yeah, I don't know which one that is.
It's, yeah.
Here's what I highlighted just from my little brief research. 1900, and maybe I have these wrong. Maybe it's like 19,000. Imposter syndrome. Stop interrupting people, 800. Setting boundaries, 900. And that's you doing reels. Well, wait, is that right? Because you're actually talking for several minutes on these videos, and you're sharing a tip that's come straight. And I really love how you often work in as an executive coach, and like you're kind of talking about your clients and things like that, which makes you super, super credible. um, yeah, talk a little bit about some of these ones that hit the major ones. Which one did you say hit 800,000?
So it's kind of buried far back in my history. So when I first did Reels, it was for fun. I was doing trends. I wasn't speaking.
Okay.
And if you're only acting out things and you're not speaking, it doesn't help your credibility as a speaker or a coach, but it was fun.
Yeah, but it was
So, yeah, the 800,000 view one was where I said something like starting a business, but then you realize you have to do social and then it's screaming. And then you have to do SEO and it's more screaming. So it's a constant cut back and forth.
yeah.
And people, that one caught fire. The next one that caught fire was one where I'm lip syncing to another sound, and it's something like it's the Eminem soundtrack where he's rapping really fast, and it's like you're starting business, you're taking all the classes, you're doing all the stuff, but then
Right.
when it comes time to sell, it's like, have you ever, well, and it's stuttering, it's like a kid's voice stuttering, and so then that was the next one to go viral, and that's what's happened. So since then I've switched around to actually speaking videos. So now I do just all straight talking head to the camera. Not easy for me.
And oh, I'm thinking it's really not easy for you. And so, do you procrastinate on those and then finally you get there? And it looks to me like you're at your kitchen counter. You're just holding a little microphone in your hand with a little puff on it. And your voice is so calm and soothing, Jewel. I don't even know if you know what a what a presence that is. It's really powerful. Do you even know that?
Well, thank you. It's it's a little hard for me to, I guess, understand that because I grew up with my dad telling me my whole life my voice is so annoying. So,
Really?
yeah.
Well, I think your voice is like it's soothing, and when you speak, it's like, damn, this is some smart shit. Like it's not, you're not always talking rocket sciencey stuff. You're talking about things that are common sense, but you put a spin on it that really has me leaning in. And I've been watching your videos now for a few months and just like totally interested. That's why I said you're onions with an onion with many, many different layers. And I've absolutely loved like exploring more. Now, talk about business posts versus personal posts. Um, you had a personal post. Hopefully, I didn't talk to you about this ahead of time. Hopefully, you're okay to talk about it. You had a post go viral on LinkedIn and I believe on Insta that was about your mom. Talk a little bit about how much courage did it take to even speak to something so personal?
So I'll just say a couple of things. So thank you for the compliment because I actually love hearing you speak. And I've listened to your podcast, which is how I came into your orbit because I was like, oh my gosh, she knows so much and I love listening to her.
Thank
So
you.
it's a high compliment. Thank you. Now, for that particular post you're referring to with my mom, I had this major blow up with my mom earlier in May this year. I'm not like most people, and I believe this is probably more the autistic side of me where my personal boundaries on vulnerability are not in the same place as they are for a lot of people. So I don't have problem sharing anything personal, which is why, at the
Oh,
beginning you're like, is there anything off limits? I was like, nope. And I
wow.
really mean that. Nothing is off limits.
That's interesting.
But yeah, but that is the one post where it's not that I had a hard time, as in I was scared to post it. I had maybe like 5% thinking, gosh, maybe people on LinkedIn are going to think this is like super inappropriate. And then I was like, well, fuck it. I don't care. I'm just going to put this out there and see what goes. So I post it and it's a very like storytelling structured post. And like, here's what we fought about. Here's how I felt. I threw up after because it was so stressful. That post gave me a vulnerability hangover.
Oh,
So maybe only 3 times in my life, I've created a piece of content where during the act of writing, during the act of creating the content, I would trigger a massive headache. That's the vulnerability hangover.
oh, I wonder how many people can relate to that. Um, was your mom born in America or is she born in Korea?
And she was born in South Korea.
South Korea. And so you were raised, just tell like a little bit, give me the Reader's Digest of that story because it really hit something for people. Um, what was the actual point of telling the story? What was the point of the story? Start from there and give me a few details.
I think the point for me of telling the story was to just show, family is almost always the most complicated relationships we have in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
especially with mother and daughter. And
Mm-hmm.
then you add on this other layer of if you're the person who's kind of got one foot in two worlds. I'm born in the States, but I come from a heavily conservative Korean family.
Mm-hmm.
So they tried, I would say, harder than the norm to adhere to the origin, to the roots of the culture, and to instill those values within me. So I grew up kind of always at war with myself. And there was no support within my family or society in general to say, hey, this is all of you. It's not just some of you. And you don't like put on a persona here and then take it off there like it's an outfit.
Right.
You want to achieve integration. And I know there's a lot of people like me where we kind of sit between two cultures, two worlds of some kind, and we don't know how to deal with that. And then when it causes conflicts, we don't know how to deal with that. So with my mom, Asian society in general, like some other societies, is very top down, very hierarchical. So, for
Yes.
instance, if someone is older, that automatically means something. You don't talk back, you don't disagree. It demands instant obedience and compliance.
Mm.
So, this year is probably maybe only the second time I've said no. So the first time was me saying no to my mom on going back to law school. So she lost her shit back then. And this time was something so trivial, something super trivial. She didn't want me to do it. And I was like, Mom, like, you don't get to tell me this. I'm fucking like 44 years old. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
She's still trying to tell me who I can talk to, who I can be friends with. And so when I was like, Mom, like this, like just no, and she just loses her mind. So you have somebody who has crazy like rage, who is unable to regulate their own emotions.
Mhm.
And as children, it brings out that desire to run and hide. So then most people will just they'll do anything to appease the parent. And this was maybe the first real time in my life. And I was just like, no, I'm not, there's no more appeasement. I can't do this anymore.
Yes. Wow. And so people responded with what types of comments to uh, that whole disclosure, the whole post, which, like you said, was written in a very beautiful story format. You kind of honored her and yourself in the same story. Uh, what were some of the feedback?
There were so many comments, and I think they were almost all women who were saying some version of, gosh, I didn't expect to cry opening up LinkedIn today. And because it reminded them, right, of their relationship with their mother. And so the
Yes.
post was not about me saying, like, fuck you, mom. It was like, you can have these really hard moments and you can still come back together because you love each other and you choose to keep loving each other despite these breaks in the relationship. You can repair those breaks. So I got comments where they're like, this brought tears to my eyes. I was crying. You made me reach out to my mom. It's never too late.
Mm,
So many. And it's like, gosh, I feel so seen. I wasn't able to put words to this. And now I feel like I
yeah.
finally understand what's going on.
Yeah. And I would say that when you do post, you are holding up a mirror for a lot of people that does allow them to feel seen by you, and not just by you, by the world. And good for you. That's the work that you're doing is really important, Jewel. And I do hope that more and more people. I just love that you're just expanding your audience. Um, you and I have something in common in that we both have lost a brother. And I believe we both were executors on the estate. Talked, there's a post that you have talking about organ donation. And oh my gosh, that was illuminating even for me. My brother was down in Mexico when he passed, so that wasn't even on the table for us. But I had instantly gone into kind of fight mode on his behalf. He had given me a will. He was in the middle of a divorce, but he hadn't signed the divorce papers, nor had he properly notarized his
Oh
will.
no.
So I immediately went from massive grief to now we have to fight to get what he wants. And I don't actually think that I've ever really grieved it properly. And so after this fight with your mom, maybe, I don't know, it was just a matter of months afterwards, you had a very tragic loss of your brother. Is there anything that you can share with people that would allow them to see how do you do business and grieve at the same time? Like such a hard thing to try to keep your life going while being just so completely and utterly in another place.
Well, I don't know. I don't think I have like a graceful answer here. Like, how did you do it?
Well, I was able to compartmentalize. That's my word. It's just, right now I'm in this mode. So I had to do all the estate stuff. And when you get into well, there's paperwork to be done, and we need all these copies of the death certificate, and we need this, and we need that. Like you're going immediately into to-do mode. How did that land for you with that kind of level of procrastination that you might have from the ADHD? How was that for you? Did you just go into to-do mode and checklist mode, or?
Honestly, I would say it was like this crazy waffling back and forth. So I would enter these periods where I so desperately wanted to honor my brother's wishes, but I think unlike your brother, my brother, he died intestate. He had no will.
Mm,
And he wasn't married at the time, which made it a little bit easier for us because then we didn't have this unfinalized divorce like what you had to deal with.
yeah.
So that put us, his family, his birth family, into the position of deciding a lot of stuff. And my parents, being so much older now, they're 85, they
Mhm.
left it to us siblings. And even there, with Asian culture, but just culture in general, you usually don't expect the youngest to kind of take over any process like this.
Yeah.
But in this case, I sort of inserted myself because I was the closest one to this brother.
You were close
And
to him, and you had some legal background that probably came in handy during that time too.
yeah, so it was hard, of course, for me to watch my siblings grieving because they all had different relationships with him.
Um,
And it was trying to make sure that there was enough space for all of us while making sure that what I think my brother's wishes would have been, that they're honored. So you go back and forth from wanting to just crumble under the grief. In
yes.
my case, because the family relationships are so strained, I felt like I didn't really have space to grieve. So in the hospital, it would be this almost like constant on guard feeling of trying to just keep certain family members reined in, like my mom,
Mm,
and to take care of logistics at the hospital. And then every night when I came back to the hotel, I would crash. The grief was just a tidal wave. So it was this back and forth every single day. The go, go, go to do in the day, and then at night, just crashing and just crying all night, and then going back to the hospital the next day.
wow.
When that first wave was over, and then I came back home, it was a struggle because I don't know if you dealt with this. I was so scared that the idea of me moving on with my life would somehow mean I'm leaving my brother behind. Did you feel some of
Oh,
that?
the first time you laugh, you're like, "How dare you? How could you possibly? How could we? How could the kids be playing? Like, come on. It just doesn't make any sense that life can go on when something so tragic has happened. And I think that just over time, that starts to, and when you think about it, what would they want? They would want you to go on with your life. And I feel most bad for my niece, who at the time was only 16. You know how hard it would be to lose your dad at 16. That is the roughest of rough. And so she's the one I worry about the most at this point.
Oh my gosh, I can relate. So my brother, he had an 18-year-old child, but
Oh,
he also had a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old. I worry about those two. His
yeah.
2-year-old, it's very sad, but also it's on a different level. I fear his 2-year-old will not remember him at all, which, there's a strong chance of that. So
So maybe that's where our job comes in, is to keep their memory alive and share with them videos and things. Something that somebody just posted. Actually, my friend Marilyn Sherman lost her husband a year ago, and she said she really leans heavily into the videos and the photographs of him. And I thought, you know what? I don't have enough videos of my husband talking to me. I'm going to be more conscious about that now. And so those are the lessons we take from these things, right? It's just tragedy. And so are you just starting now to start to kind of wind things up with your business again? Did you have to kind of put it on pause a little bit? Were you able to do that with your coaching clients?
I was able to put my clients on hold. They were all very understanding, so I'm lucky there.
Yes.
But in terms of the marketing engine, and this is where I don't love where my business is at, is since it's partially based with SEO, I do get pretty good inquiries coming from just Google or even ChatGPT these days.
Oh,
But
nice.
there is a certain amount of presence that's expected if you have a social media presence, a following. So,
The
yeah,
beast, right? You have to constantly feed the beast. What does the timing look like for you on that? Are you posting weekly? Are you posting how often? What's your frequency? And, I think maybe that helps your mind to say, okay, this is what I've committed to.
I've moved away from the days where I would compulsively post every day, sometimes even twice a day.
Hmm.
I'm probably sitting around 3 to 5 times a week now.
Okay.
So 5 times and sometimes even more if I'm feeling ultra productive. But yeah, it's a question of okay, what format? Video, carousel. It's usually going to be video these days because at least I can put that on every platform, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Okay.
And yeah, so your earlier question about business and grief, part of my processing of grief was to talk about this and share this on social media because I've been given the feedback that I'm a little too professional all the time, a little too put together, and there's not enough of the personal side. So
Okay.
it's not like I was sitting here calculating, oh, how do I be more personal with this? That would be
Yeah.
horrible. But my mind could not get off of the grief track. So I said, okay, I need to talk this out. I need to process my thoughts. So that's why I put together the guide on organ donation questions that you
Yes.
would want everybody around you to have. This is
Mhm.
why here's the stuff I wish I'd known that I didn't know and it was too late. And then we were scrambling. So here are all of these things. And I've even gone on podcasts to talk about this because it helps me feel like at least this is one way of keeping my brother's memory alive. And at least this is one way that others can maybe not go through this so painfully like we did. It's already going to be probably the most painful experience of your life.
Yeah.
Maybe don't make it worse.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think we have a saying in speaking that is speak from the scar rather than like a really gaping open wound. And I think the way that you did it was that you were kind of processing little pieces at a time. And the things that you shared, my God, helpful. Talk about, like, I think it was purposeful. It was very purposeful and very meaningful. And so it totally made sense. I did not look up your numbers on TikTok. How many followers do you have on TikTok?
I am sitting at 29,000 something.
Okay, so that's actually your biggest channel, and I hadn't even mentioned that yet. And that's just because I'm not even there. Um, I thought about getting on there to sell books, and then I thought, you know what, I'm starting at the ground zero. I'm not going to do it. Um,
Oh my gosh. But wait a minute.
okay, talk to me about
TikTok is easier. TikTok is easier to grow than Instagram. Their algorithm works differently. So if anything, I think you would have a easier time, especially with your background. So all of the business marketing tips, they work pretty well on TikTok.
Okay. Say more about, let's say somebody else who's listening wants to maybe do some uh, startup and they're thinking about TikTok. Give me like two or three things that you learned along the way from your building of to 29K. So, I mean, I need to go back and redo the beginning because I missed out on 30,000 followers. Your number is 60 at least, plus other, probably other places. Um, Yeah, give us a couple of hacks that people, if you've never done anything on TikTok or you're trying to grow and you've been struggling on TikTok, something that people could do.
So, the number one thing that I think people don't get on TikTok, and this is where I actually struggle with this myself, is the more you can talk like your normal everyday self, like the way you would talk to your family, your friends, your husband, your wife, the better your chances are succeeding on TikTok. TikTok is all about authenticity and natural and imperfect. It is
Okay.
not like Instagram where everything is super polished and curated and perfect and just blah.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little bit like the difference between threads. Have you been on threads?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
Uh,
resistant. I'm resistant. I just every time I cross over there, it just feels so negative. So I haven't gotten too super into it. I
oh
don't know if
no.
I don't know if it's like the type of post that I will like that I fall for on clickbait, and then it leads me down this tunnel of politics and negativity, and I'm just like, blah, no, no. So I haven't done that either. Talk a little bit about threads for people who are curious.
So I would say Threads and TikTok have a little bit of this in common, where it's more about just being your natural self and showing up to have a conversation and to talk with others and not talk at or down to them.
Okay.
So this is actually my current thing that I have to keep working on because my whole philosophy is you want to teach, but don't preach.
Mm.
So there's so many of us, especially coaches, that fall into that. We're preaching at you, and it kind of comes with this mixed negative energy vibe. It's not super great. But then if you look at content like it's Lenny the Blob, have you ever seen that account?
No.
It's this cutest little animated cartoon account, and it comes narrated in a child's voice. And the child will impart some little lesson, but it's obviously not talking down at you. It comes very much from like the side, like the kid who's giving you a
Oh,
hug, who just runs up and gives you a hug type of feeling. I
that's
was like,
nice.
there's many ways to approach this. And the number one thing I cannot stress enough is you should show up as you. So you, Jane, the person that I see who talks to me, you're such a good friend. I can tell you're such a wonderful person. Just talk like how you would to your kids or to your family and do that on TikTok.
Nice, nice. And I think you struck a chord with me when you said curated. I think a lot of people will be like, "No, I have to do hair and makeup and I have to have it all together." I wear t-shirts. I don't do a lot of hair and makeup. Like I'm really pretty much what you get is what you see, and I'm full on the Zoom filter a lot of the times too, by the way. I love a good filter, people. So I know somebody would be like, "Oh, that's inauthentic." Don't care.
Well, TikTok has a great filter that doesn't look too crazy and over
Oh,
the
tell
top.
me, what's it called?
It's just literally the default one. So
Okay.
if you just turn on the camera in TikTok, there's a little beauty filter you can just tick on, and
Okay.
it does like the same kind of zoom filtering. But
Yeah.
if you want more extra layers of filtering, then they have tons of filters you can select.
I don't do a lot of it. I just go with the standard little, like the beauty check mark. That's all I would do. Oh my gosh. Okay. Talk about imposter syndrome. We're a little long on time today, but I've absolutely adored talking to you. Talk a little bit about imposter syndrome because that is kind of a world that you coach on a lot, right?
Yeah, so just super quick to make sure we're all on the same page for what it is not that you are an imposter. It's the fact that you feel like an imposter. You feel like you're about to be discovered as a fraud at any point. People are going to find out something about you and then they're going to like cart you off. They're going to escort you off the grounds. And that is because you attribute your successes to stuff outside of yourself. You know, if you keep saying, I got lucky, they just liked me, I had connections, and you have a pattern of doing this, so you're not internalizing your own achievements.
Mm.
So that's what that is. For me, and for a lot of people of color, you will often see signs of that when you feel like you don't belong. So, one of the key things of how this comes about is when, let's say, you're Black going into like an all white team, you might feel some more pressure because of that. You might not be conscious of that. Or let's say you grew up in a lower socioeconomic status household, and then you get a job at a hedge fund and everybody else, they are trust fund babies, you might feel some imposter syndrome. I've even heard a story of this one woman, she's a personal trainer. She's always been naturally thin. And the group she's in, all the other personal trainers used to be like very heavy and overweight. So she feels like an imposter because she's never actually struggled with that.
Gosh. Okay. Wow. So lots of examples. And is there any kind of, what do you share with your clients? Is there like a thought that we can read? Imposter syndrome is either a thought or a series of thoughts that are leading to bad feelings that are then leading to actions or not inaction. And it's just not going to be helpful in our life, especially for a professional speaker. What is something that you'd like to share about that?
So I'm 100% in the same boat with you about the thoughts. The part that people will have a really hard time is that they'll be like, but I believe this. And I'm like, but do you understand what a belief is? It's just a thought you've practiced a million times. So it feels true to you, but
Yes.
it's not something you can actually prove in a court of law. So that's
Right.
usually the hammer I'll bring out to my clients. It's like,
Court of law. You're pulling
yeah,
your lawyer out of your back pocket there.
yeah, yeah. So I'll be like, you feel like an imposter. You feel like you don't deserve this. How do you prove that in a court of law? And they're like, well, I can't.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
yeah. So on the technical side, one of the biggest imposter syndrome experts who I studied under, her name is Dr. Valerie Young. She talks about these cognitive distortions, which I think the life coach school also has like a similar idea.
Yes.
You are thinking certain things and you're making them mean certain things that really aren't true. So, for example, there's 5 types of imposter syndrome. The perfectionist is one of the most common ones.
I
And
think we
this
have
is
a
the
lot of
person. Oh, what was that?
we have a lot of those in
Oh, yeah, yeah, for sure, especially as women.
yep, yep.
So, perfectionists with imposter syndrome, for example, will think, I only got 98% and not 100%. I'm a failure because of that missing 2%.
Yeah, exactly. Why? And if they in terms of speaking, if you get back your feedback forms and there's 95 amazing comments, but there's two that have some actual feedback for you, those are the two that you'll focus on, hyper focus. Okay, so
Everybody.
what are the perfectionism? What are the other four?
The other types are the expert type. So, this is where I tend to fall, the person who feels like you have to know everything under the sun before you start something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
There's the natural genius where they're used to excelling at things naturally. And so the moment they encounter something they're not naturally and quickly good at, they think they're an imposter. You have the superhuman. This is a person who feels like they have to do it all. So, they're usually the pillar of the community, they're the leader of the PTA, they have all the jobs under the sun, and they also expect themselves to be super mom, super dad.
yep.
And let's see, what is the one type? There's always the one type that I always forget. Hmm.
We'll put it in the
Oh,
show notes.
the soloist. It's the
The
soloist.
soloist. Okay,
Yeah.
what's
That's the person who feels like they should never have to ask for help.
oh gosh.
They have to do it
Okay,
all by themselves.
okay, people. I know you have seen yourself in one of those five examples. And I want you to cut it out right now. There are certain things that is there a go-to place? Do you have an article about that or something that you've have you talked about it online? Where could somebody go if they wanted to find out more information on this idea?
I have a post on imposter syndrome that I will repin to my Instagram profile, and you'll
Okay.
just see it at the top of my profile. So if you go there, it'll show you the 5 types of imposter syndrome.
We're going to grab that from you and we're going to put it in the show notes. So go to Speaker Launcher, click on podcasts, and search for Jule, Jule, Kim, Kim. Tell everybody your handle on Insta because it's not just your name. What else is it? It's
Yeah, it's at ITSJuleKim. But on LinkedIn, it's just Jule Kim.
okay. Very good. And so where would you like people to connect with you? You have given us so much beautiful information. I know you're going to get some feedback. Where would you like to direct people? Over to LinkedIn or Instagram or where?
LinkedIn is where I spend most of my time these days. So always welcome to send me a connection and send me a private message there. Love
Beautiful.
having conversations with new people.
Oh, you are just such a delight. And I'm so happy that I know you. I'm so happy that maybe more people know you now in the speaking world. And I'm very excited to see you up on stages, big, giant stages with mega screens on either side of them, because I think that's where you belong.
Well, I too can't wait for that. So I'm all for that vision.
Okay, we're going to talk. All right. Thank you, Jule. And for those of you listening in, hey, let us know if you have some feedback. Shoot me an email, jane@speakerlauncher.com. And with that, we will say, see you soon, wealthy speakers. Bye for now, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. If you need help scaling your speaking business, head over to speakerlauncher.com and chat with us.